This is the republic. So if free markets can organize an economy, allocate resources through prices and a competition, leading to good production and distribution of goods and services, why is the ANC government so afraid of free markets and so against it?
The Government of National Unity has resolved to dedicate the next 5 years to actions that will advance 3 strategic priorities. Firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. Secondly, to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living. And thirdly, to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state.
They would say to you that an unregulated market can lead to monopolies, but they are the monopoly. Them and their BE friends. They would say that it leads to predatory business practices and is harmful for customers and small businesses. Well, how are small businesses doing in current day South Africa?
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
The ANC government is against free markets because free markets free people. Conservative governments love free markets because free markets allow people to be responsible for themselves. And if people are responsible for themselves, the ANC is out of business.
I'm worried that this minister that we pay so much, Minister Maite, she's sleeping in parliament. And with that position, she's going to fall. And the minister would have fallen. She's still sleeping.
Honorable member.
She's still, I don't know. What's happening?
That's not a point of order. Take your seat.
No. The minister is sleeping. You can't say that's not a point of order.
No, Josie,
are you condoning people sleeping now?
Josie,
we must come to sleep here in parliament.
Minimal government intervention encourages entrepreneurship. If you want entrepreneurship, you want as little government intervention as possible. You want all the regulations to be as minimal as possible and compliance costs and costs of starting a business to be as minimal as possible. Because if you're starting a small business, most of the time you don't have money or you don't have that much money. And those people who can pay all those costs and meet all those regulations are usually big businesses, which then leads to monopolies. Free market competition typically drives down prices while improving product quality and customer service as businesses compete for customers. Because in a competitive landscape, the customer gets to choose who the winner is. But in a society where the government doesn't allow for that free market to flourish, they over-regulate the markets, they over-regulate small businesses. We're forced to stick with the old businesses that are actually and technically being propped up by the government. Because to create and destroy, you need to be able to move quickly and fast. And if you can't move quickly and fast because you're restricted by a bad business environment, such as we have in South Africa, well, you're dead in the water. You're dead before you even begin. They want you to be less profitable because the minute you start becoming profitable, you can start calling some of your own shots. You can start creating some of your own solutions for banking, for healthcare, for groceries. You can start living absolutely to the full because market-driven economies that have free markets, they tend to respond more quickly to changing customer demands, and technology innovations develop much quicker and become part of the planning going into the future. The planning of South Africa as it stands, especially for our economy, is almost non-existent. What is the vision? And now in this partnership with the DA, what is the vision for the future? What is the vision of the GNU to take South Africa forward? What is the vision? What are they building? What are the plans? Because the market is closed and owned by the government, and small governments are restricted through a lack of funding, too much red tape. The government itself has become the negative impact on a population and on the economy. They've created a cost to starting a business that has nothing to do with money even before you start. It has to do with access. Free trade actually promotes working together amongst communities, amongst people, and even with people from outside the country. It allows for that exchange, that global impact, and the development of markets and doing transactions with people all over the world, especially in this sort of internet-based world. But if you can't even start and you don't have the internet, what are we doing then? Well, then we're going to the post office, which is also a failing enterprise. We're going to the post office to collect 370 Rand. Government should not try to be overly involved in the markets. It has to take a minimal intervention stance, because that minimal intervention by the government in the markets, that allows for rapid market corrections and adaptations by citizens and by businesses, preventing the prolonged and inefficient practices that run through inefficient economies like South Africa. You see this prolonged sort of chronic problem in our unemployment. You see it in our electricity supply. If you aren't providing electricity at a good price to citizens and businesses, you find businesses that are not able to grow, that are not able to employ people, and thus leading to more unemployment. Look at the riots in 2021. They destabilized society because the country was locked down and people were starving and without opportunity, and the market could not do anything because it was being strangled by the government. Democracy was tossed to the side and people were lawless. The wealthy had to be vigilant, because what if these riots start to spill over? And the income inequality was clear. While some people were starving, some people were sitting in their plush homes, mainly ANC politicians, without a care in the world. And that's not people with jobs' fault, that's the government's fault. The system of the market is supposed to reward merit. You're supposed to give something to get something. You're supposed to innovate and find good ways, efficient ways of delivering services and goods, creating incentives for people to buy from you, and using continuous improvement to try gain an edge and make more sales, developing your company. But in South Africa, the government would rather encourage you to look for tenders. That's business to them. That's how we do business here, getting BEE deals. That's not going to build a society. That's not going to build the economy at all. Become a member of the channel and get exclusive members-only content, courses, articles, audio, and much more, all in one place. We add new materials every single month, and we'd love to have you. Check out the links in the description or in the links for the channel. Free markets create opportunities. They don't center the opportunities in the government. They create economic mobility where you can move up in the world, not have to have contacts in the government to get into the right clubs and to get into the right networks. You would rather have competition rather than government-directed outcomes, because the government always directs things to themselves, not to your benefit and not to the benefit of this country. Free markets can address the problems of this country because they're beyond discrimination, and they can provide things like education and bring equality in healthcare, education, and bring equal access and opportunity in things like healthcare and education. Minimal intervention should be what government goes for. They shouldn't be trying to create this crony system of a government gang. They should allow the market to grow, the market to be influenced by entrepreneurs and citizens, so that people can trade and do business, start businesses, and create jobs. Over-regulation of a market, that's what creates a depressed economy. Free market systems generally produce more technological innovation, economic growth, rather than economies that are planned from Pretoria by one guy and his little greedy friends. South Africa doesn't need the ANC to run the economy. They need the ANC to create an environment and stay out of the economy, to create an environment for a free economy and stay out of it. That should be the role of a government, because that's what a conservative government would do. And I'm telling you, the country would grow. A free market allows for optimal resource allocation, maximum economic efficiency, innovation and progress, individual prosperity, economic growth overall, job creation, and consumer benefits for the end buyer. This is not something that can happen under a government that wants to constrain wages, that wants to keep us under the minimum wage system that doesn't work.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. There are mixed views about the national minimum wage. Labour Federation COSATU has proposed that the national minimum wage be increased next year by the average inflation rate plus 3%, while the DA says the national minimum wage hike will deepen South Africa's unemployment crisis.
Look, the minimum wage is a very critical poverty alleviation intervention.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
It's had a huge impact upon boosting the wages of 6 million workers across the private sector, from farm to domestic workers, from the construction industry to hospitality.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
These workers earn very little. They simply can't afford to survive when they see the rising cost of living. And we've seen it increase quite significantly in the past couple of years.
The truth is that the ANC government and its socialist mindset does not align with how human beings actually work. That's why socialism doesn't work. What actually aligns with how people actually are is what Adam Smith said. When Adam Smith said, it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard for their own interests. When the butcher or the brewer or the baker gives you a good or goes to all the effort of making something with their skill, with their time, and with their own resources, they don't just give it to you out of kindness. They give it to you because they have an interest in making money for themselves, and they're willing to trade that time, that skill, and that resource in exchange for money so that they can benefit and you benefit by getting something that they have created that benefits your life. That's how human beings actually work. That's why capitalism works. That's why conservatives are capitalists. And economic growth requires free markets.
Every generation has to cope with the problem of how far should governments intervene in the business of trying to maximize the wealth of their own country.
Perhaps more than any other person, Adam Smith's ideas have led directly to the first real broad-based advancements in mankind's quality of life in thousands of years. He was a proponent of free markets and morality. His writings and ideas have spread around the globe. And in spite of the progress we have yet to make, his ideas truly changed our world.
Allowing markets to be free and people to trade and transact, and having as minimum requirements as possible, getting rid of all the over-complicated rules and permits and registrations and costs and affirmative action, getting rid of all that nonsense, allowing people to really just start businesses and do business and create jobs, and getting the power up and running properly so that people can do that. That's what actually links and aligns best with how human beings actually work. Human beings do things at a highest level when they know they can benefit from it. So use that. Use that human behavior or way of thinking of doing something at a high level in the most productive way, because you're also going to benefit from it, because you need something out of this life as well. Use that then to the benefit of everyone. How do you do that? You institute a system of free markets where everyone can transact and trade with whomever they wish. They can create for themselves, and it's up to them to take care of themselves.
Only kind of equality that is consistent with personal liberty is equality before the law. But however, looking at equality of opportunity as a concept, it really just doesn't tell you very much. That is, I don't have an equal opportunity to be a great boxer. I don't have the equal opportunity to be a great basketball player. And I don't have the equal opportunity to do many, many things. So I think that the only kind of equality we should be striving for is equality before the law.
Thomas Jefferson had slaves, and the free market essentially created slavery. But the free market wasn't going to take that away. It wasn't going to take discrimination away. It wasn't going to take Jim Crow laws away. So without some kind of government intervention, why wouldn't that have continued?
Well, I don't think slavery is consistent with the free market. That is, the free market has something to do with private property rights and self-ownership. And slavery is a violation of the essential principles of free markets. So slavery is more, it's something like the forcible use of one person to serve the purposes of another. And that has to be offensive to anybody who believes in personal liberty. I think
once they are responsible for themselves, they have to innovate. They have to create. A government that is always in the way is a government that doesn't want the citizen to prosper. Because once the citizen starts to prosper, then he doesn't need the government. And there's nothing socialists fear more than that, because socialists and government don't have any power outside of the people. They have no authority outside of the people permitting them to do so. That's why conservatives say that power that the government has should be at the consent of the citizen. The citizens give the government permission to set certain things in place, not the other way around. The government doesn't tell the citizens tell the government and allow them to do so. You don't run around telling us what to do, Ramaphosa. You are not clever enough. Free markets allow freedom. Do not buy the lies of the Zwelinzima Vavis and the Matthew Parks and the Carl Niehauses and the Floyd Shivambus, who want to tell you that they are out here for the benefit of people and they're working to collectivize society and to control the markets and to put in all their little requirements and all their little rules so that you can have a good wage. You have to have a free economy if you want a life of freedom. An economy that is restrained by politicians only really benefits politicians. The highest earners will be the politicians, because everyone else will be a victim of the laws that the politicians set in place, because the politicians want those laws there. Not because they're what is best for the country. What is best for the country is people acting in their own interests, as Adam Smith says, to fulfill certain things for you, and you are willing to exchange your time and hard-earned money for that. It's not by writing rules that someone must pay you this much because you show up. Because you, sitting in your trade union office or in your office in Pretoria or Cape Town, think you can run someone's business in some street somewhere in South Africa. What do you know about him and what do you know about his business? The free market allows people to explore that and take responsibility for themselves. We don't need the Zwelinzima Vabis and the Floyd Shivambus in our life. Communist filth. If you want monopolies, don't give all the big businesses the power then, because they will take advantage of people. They will abuse that power and they will rip the guts out of the citizen. You want the competition. You want someone to reject Discovery Health. You want someone to reject Pick and Pay and go to Spar. It's just that simple. And you want the small players to come in, someone to be able to start their own insurance company out of their own little house, and I can go to him because I know him and I can insure my family with him. I didn't have to take Cyril Ramaphosa's buddy's insurance. I can start my own shop and we can import and export our own things. We can grow our own things and start our own value chains, and I can buy from my local grocer that is very big in the community I live in, and that person has ability to grow that business to all over South Africa as well, just like anybody else. The competition keeps everybody honest, not depending on their own honesty.
You are fake news.
That's not how human beings work. And the honesty of the government can definitely not be trusted, because they will not work in your favor as a citizen. The South African government is keeping their thumb on the scale and not allowing free markets because they want to control you and they don't want you to be an owner of yourself. They become the hand instead of the invisible hand. They become inefficient and limit productivity and prosperity. They look in the self-interest of the government and don't allow human beings to look in the self-interest of themselves, which is what stimulates growth, productivity, innovation, and creativity. If it's all about the government, why does someone need to create? Because they can't get anywhere anyway. At that point, it has to be a revolution, and revolution plays into the hands of who? Communists. Conservatives believe in gradual change over time, not big revolutions. Big revolutions 99% of the time fail and leave you in a worse state than you were before. Free markets is the revolution South Africa needs, and free markets are a good revolution because they change what the society is and allow people to be free and act in their own interest to bring the best value they can using their time, their talents, and their own resources to the market in exchange for money so they can benefit, and the person who exchanged said service or product for money can benefit. It's actually very simple, but the government always seems to get in the way. Why do you think that is?
Magwala, cheche, cheche, Hoya Rona,
Thank you for listening. If you dare, buy us a coffee. The link is in the description.